Hi, everybody. I'm John Kraska, Executive Director for EveryLibrary and the EveryLibrary Institute. Thank you for joining us for a very special EveryLibrary Live event. Today we have Tracey Quillen Carney, the First Lady of Delaware, with us. As First Lady, Tracey coordinates the efforts of the First Chance Delaware initiative, which has three big pillars: ending childhood hunger in Delaware, promoting early language skills, and advancing effective recognition of and responses to childhood trauma. She's a native Delawarean, former educator and administrator in schools, and staffed then Senator Joe Biden's district offices and the Senate Judiciary Committee under his chairmanship. Tracey, welcome to EveryLibrary Live.
Thanks for the invitation. I appreciate the chance to be here.
Well, it's a real treat to have you here. We talk about books and reading a lot here on EveryLibrary Live. We spend a lot of time about the culture of reading. We recently did a big series of events with literary fiction authors, which is really fun. And like,
Yeah.
why are you an author? What are you up to? And you are at a place with the project that you've been working on, which is what we wanted to feature today, the Books for Blue initiative. It's your book. It's at the beginning of the culture of reading conversation. The basics of early childhood reading, of family literacy. We can talk all day about Nora Roberts and Julia Quinn and all these wonderful other authors, and have Jason Reynolds on. But if the kids don't have a pipeline to access to reading, and the families don't have a disposition towards reading, it doesn't happen. So your Books for Blue initiative has been inspiring families around Delaware to have that access point to reading. You've been in public service your whole professional life, but did you always want to be an author?
I have long had a passion for writing, but the kinds of writing I've done have been very different up until this project. When I worked for then Senator Biden, I did some speech writing, I did some op-ed drafting and that kind of thing. Communicate that kind of communications, organizational communications, which is also when I, as a school administrator, what I did. So I have long had a passion for writing and the idea of connecting with who you're trying to reach in a way that reflects empathy, that puts the heart with the head. So I've long had that passion, but never thought really about writing a book before. Well,
Yeah,
that's not true. That's not true. I once thought about writing a book before and started it.
well, I've that technical writing, that writing for persuasion. I'm very familiar with what you mean, and I've been a co-author on two books that are just textbooks for the library industry about political action, about community organizing, things like that, and a heart for writing for kids. I mean, that's it's a big leap. What's the gap in Delaware in the conversations around early childhood literacy that you wanted to fill? Like, what's your origin story for Books for Blue?
I think the origin story, when we first came up with the three pillars for first chance, the idea was you can't just do one thing because the problems reinforce each other and solutions need to reinforce each other too. Kids are not hungry on Monday, have literacy issues on Tuesday, and experience trauma on Wednesday. These things go together. Each one deepens the effect of the others. There's often a generational, kind of erosion of opportunity that comes with these intersecting, interwoven issues. So that's why we decided to have a three-prong approach. And the literacy void I looked at specifically was birth to five.
Mhm.
What happens before kids get to kindergarten? That the brain science was compelling to me. The number of neural connections that happen in early life and the way in which they are interdependent. You're not just the architecture of literacy is connected to the architecture for a whole lot of other things,
Mhm.
um, including healthy attachment, learning how to read the world, how to think, how to ask questions, how to have healthy relationships. These things happen very fast, very early, and all at the same time. So that the brain science was compelling to me. I don't think there had been enough attention on that. I know that there are some wonderful organizations working on it, but as a mom, I don't think I had paid enough attention to that or had it communicated to me enough. Our kids are now, you know, pushing 30, so that
Yeah.
was a while back. So I think the idea of getting in there early, and if we ever, everybody talks about that third grade reading benchmark.
Mhm.
What I wanted, I think the case where I wanted to help push the needle on where we wanted to help push the needle with First Chance is if you want to hit the third grade reading benchmark, you got to start before kindergarten.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And
So
science of reading,
that's where we were at.
yeah,
Yeah.
the science of reading, the integration of reading into all different kinds of successes and outcomes, the absence of literacy skills certainly has indicators. And yet, this is a great book. This is a nice book. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about the story arc? I mean, the emphasis on access to reading, the access to the library card, the the arc of the story, I think, is very purposeful.
It is very purposeful, and we like to describe it as a book for kids of all ages because the hope is that the story is accessible for kids and they enjoy it. And certainly the beautiful watercolor illustrations by Emily Hirschman,
Hmm.
everyone can enjoy. But the messages in the book are really for all of us. The arc of the story is Blue is the youngest in the family and goes to the library with the family and mama makes one choice, pops makes another choice, the kind of teenagers in the teen room make choices based on their hobbies, and Blue sort of takes it all in deciding how to make a choice about a book, and also consults with the children's librarian.
Hmm.
So the idea is our obligation to set a good example. You were talking about a family culture of literacy. The family goes together to the library.
Hmm.
Each bird actually chooses a book, uh, setting a good example, not just giving advice, but setting a good example, um, and reflecting, the kinds of choices you can make
Hmm.
uh, that have to do with your interests, authors you like, your hobbies.
Hmm.
And then Blue sort of puts that all together with help from the children's librarian to make a choice independently.
The,
Uh,
I think that the independent choice, the idea that children have some agency of their own. I mean,
yeah,
you have a lot of respect for kids. I
I
could
have a
tell
lot of
with this
respect for
book.
kids.
Yeah, yeah,
Too. I think if we would listen more to kids, we'd be a lot better off.
yeah. The so you mentioned your illustrator Emily Hirschman, that kind of a collaboration as an author. Yeah, I know the book is available in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. I mean, just tell
Right.
me from a process perspective, what was it like to do the creative side of this work?
It was really fun. And I should also mention, in addition to collaboration with Emily, Casey Family Programs, a
Certainly.
foundation we've worked with all along with First Chance, funded the publication of the book.
Mhm.
So that was very helpful. And a local publisher that sort of specializes in multi-language books, Syncretic Press, was our publisher.
Mhm.
And they also facilitated the Spanish translation, which is hard for me because I don't know if the translations are good. So that's a loss of control. That's not
Right,
entirely
right.
comfortable for
Yeah.
me.
When you work as an author, when you work with an editor, you're always on a little bit of a tightrope. But when you're
Right.
working in a language that you're not fluent in yourself, I've never done that before.
Yeah, it's a leap of faith, but this actually both the publisher and the translators are people the governor's office had worked with before during the pandemic,
Hmm.
trying to get information out in different languages. So that there was a foundation of trust there.
Hmm.
Um, so that did make it a lot easier. Um, what was the question?
Oh,
I
just how
wandered
much
off.
the process of being an author, working with your editors, with all that kind of fun stuff, your illustrator. So it sounds like it was a very collaborative environment.
It was, and we had an experienced children's editor at Syncretic Press. We had a child psychologist review the book. Annie Norman, our state librarian,
Mhm.
reviewed the book. Um, so we were trying to be very careful about it. We wanted to make sure it reflected a trauma-informed perspective. We wanted to make sure everything was, um, again, both universal but still age appropriate
Mhm.
for preschool to
Mhm.
kindergarten, first grade kids.
Mhm.
Um, and Emily's drawings or paintings were inspirational to me. The first draft of the text was very straightforward, kind of finding getting the just right book, the right age, something you're interested in. It wasn't. Uh, it was a good starting point, but it needed a little sparkle.
Mhm.
Uh, So then I remembered reading with students at the Stubbs Early Education Center in the city of Wilmington in Delaware, and they really liked books that rhymed. I thought, okay, we should make this book rhyme.
Yeah.
So that presents a whole different set of challenges.
Hmm.
Uh, that's what I did use my thesaurus a little there. And uh, so then it started to get its rhythm, and the allegory and the metaphors got spirit as well as
Hmm.
legs, I guess. You know, they before they were sort of, it was all sort of too straightforward. We needed a little, the allegory needed to be a little, have more life of its own.
Like any good storyteller, you try to put it up on its feet in front of a live audience, and it actually worked out better. That's great. Yeah.
Right.
So this Books for Blue program has I think it has a real strong advantage in terms of its mission because you've placed it in community anchor institutions. It's in public libraries, it's in schools, it's in early childhood centers. It's
Right.
got a good story. It's a fun thing to sit with your kids and read. And it also has worksheets and videos and advice for parents and caregivers. I know it's part of the continuum of literacy supports that includes in Delaware. You folks were early adopters of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library in Delaware. There's been a strong commitment to early childhood literacy from the Delaware Division of Libraries and each of the individual public libraries out there. I mean, this is a purposefully aligned project that sounds like it was a ton of fun to do.
All of the above. I
Yeah, yeah,
agree with
yeah.
all of that. Yes, I give Annie Norman a great deal of credit for leading the library division in this direction.
Hmm.
Um, and also for the way that our libraries have embraced the multi-generational service approach, that the 21st century library model is really taking off in Delaware, thanks to people like Annie and those and her team. That libraries are centers of community life, and you go there as a family. There's going to be something that is a benefit to everybody, including our most vulnerable neighbors. People need help, maybe with language skills, with finding a job, with finding housing. All that is happening at libraries now. And you look at the new libraries that have been built, they all have great big rooms for community meetings. They're not, I loved the library of my youth, but the
Hmm.
library, and we read at the library of my youth, and uh, it's a more wonderful place than it was.
Hmm.
So I credit others with much of the good work in libraries that I think has people say, oh, it's keeping libraries relevant. You know, libraries have always been relevant. They don't need a lot of help. Um, but it has pushed, libraries are in the future, are visionary places in Delaware, and a lot of people deserve credit for that.
Well, the administration, the congressional delegation. I mean, I'm not talking policy wonky stuff here. There was a big investment made
Yeah.
by the current administration in the built environment of libraries, and it is a singular and unique moment in the United States of America to say we are going to build this permanent infrastructure for literacy, learning, and community connections. The 10 projects that were funded by that investment have accelerated things in a wonderful way, I think, for Delawareans. I don't live in Delaware. We're a national multi-state organization. I live in suburban Chicago myself, but I was in Harrington the other day. And that
Okay.
wonderful built space
Brand
that you're
new
talking about.
library. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I drove by. I'm like, what kind of curb appeal? Look at this thing. You know, it's gorgeous. And I remember that the library it replaced was in an old funeral home. You know,
It,
I mean, it had enough of a footprint to do what it did at the time, but now it can do what it needs to do. And that investment on the part of the administration and the congressional delegation has been extraordinary.
it has, and the people who made the case for the investment were also extraordinary.
That's
So
true. That's
credit
true.
to all. Credit
Yeah.
to all.
So what goes on in that building specifically when you're out there doing a Books for Blue program? I mean, I watched a couple of videos. I mean, you're good with with child working with child. I'm a little awkward around kids. You know, I read the book. Apparently, you're supposed to show it to them. You know, but what? Hey, you've got the book with you. Can you share the cover
Oh,
real
sure.
quick? Yeah.
This is Books for Blue. This is the version that's English and Spanish, as you can see. The other version is English and Haitian Creole.
Hmm.
And again, we found the crucial importance of that during the pandemic, of communicating in that language. It's the third most spoken language in Delaware.
Hmm.
The Haitian Creole version is actually all gone.
Oh,
We're out
wow.
of, they've
Wow.
all been distributed. Um, so I hope what we do on this, we're calling it a reading tour because it's not just about one book. And we still have, is it just one more stop? Um, I think there's just one more stop on the reading tour
Hmm.
next week. And we will have gone more than 30 locations, libraries, early education centers, community centers, um, all kinds of neat places. And I read to a conference of adults as well. So,
That's cool.
and what we're trying to do, what I hope we're doing is sort of modeling some of the messages in the book in how we read at these events.
Hmm.
Uh, Not every, with all ages, kids are different from each other and sort of respecting seeing each child for who they are. Some are going to jump right in my lap. Some are going to hide behind their caregiver. Some are going to run around while we're reading. And some are going to sit there and stare at the book. So
Hmm.
I hope we honor all of that and engage the kids in a way that they can enjoy and in a way that builds a little bit of trust to the extent that you can do that in a short time
Hmm.
so that they know we're, they are our focus. We
Hmm.
are here to see them, to interact with them in a meaningful way.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about, tight ropes and working without a net, I mean, you got a bunch of 3 to 5 year olds in front of
yeah, it's fun.
you. I think that's fantastic. I really do.
It's really fun.
Yeah. In your time as first lady, do you think you've hit every single library in school? I mean, the chance to be able to be out there. I was trying to do the math on press releases. It looks like you've covered. I mean, you've met a lot of your neighbors over these last many years.
It's been great. I'm sure we've not hit everywhere, but it's been great, and a lot of the work is about moving the needle.
Hmm.
One of the sort of unique aspects of the Books for Blue project is there kind of was an end product, and it was fun to have a tangible product to take around
Hmm.
um, and share. Uh, but yes, I think listening to people, including young people, about their own lives is something we maybe do not do enough. Uh, um, I had a chance to work with a group of young people on the trauma stuff. Um, and we went to DC for a first spouse, convened sort of, again, with help from Casey, convened sort of a first spouses. Uh, every first spouse brought two young people from their state.
Well, that's
And they
cool.
got to meet with the secretary of HHS,
Hmm.
got to meet the president, um, and they got to say what they wanted to say. And this year was and then we brought that home. The young people really brought it home and had a mental health summit last year that I was very involved with. And this year, I just had a chance to stop by. They did it again, and they really did it themselves. I mean, they got some funding and some help support in that way, but they really took it and ran with it. They organized everything
Hmm.
themselves.
To
So
be youth led in the work that you're doing, and to be responsive to the real life. I mean, the initiatives that you've been doing um, statewide. I assume that you're going to be carrying some of them forward when your family moves from the governor's mansion to the mayor's office as well.
yes, I hope so. It will be city focused. I won't, anybody can always call me that I've worked with, but I will try to get off the statewide stuff for a couple. I think there's a certain graciousness in getting off the stage and letting the next group do their
Certainly.
thing.
Huh.
Uh, but things that are focused in the city of Wilmington, yes, I
Mhm.
do hope to continue a lot of the same themes.
Yeah, the first time I visited Wilmington, I got off the train and I went to my hotel and I had dinner. I mean, it's a great downtown,
It is.
but like any big city, it's got some challenges too.
It does, and again, I look forward to working with the young people. Had to spend a good, a fair amount of time in the city. I mentioned the Stubbs Early Learning Center, which has been a great partner. Other preschool programs that I hope to continue to partner with in the city, as well as um, some of the mental health uh, leadership that we have in the city.
And I know that the library will love to see you anytime you swing by. So,
And we did. We had a wonderful. We actually launched the book at the historic Wilmington Library,
Yes.
Wilmington Public Library, which is a beautiful place with amazing programming. So yes, I hope to be back there as well, and that's where we hosted Dolly Parton too.
Hmm. That's quite the treat. So we've come up on our available time, and I want to say thank you very much to Tracey Quillen Carney, the First Lady of Delaware, for sharing with us about the her initiatives, the Books for Blue initiative, which is available at every library in Delaware, the schools, the early childhood centers, and the ongoing focus on that child-centered approach to like not raising kids, but letting them grow. Tracey, this has been a great chat. I really appreciate your time today and sharing all of this with us.
You're very kind. Thanks again for inviting me. I appreciate it.
It's a treat. Bye bye.